Hey, welcome. I wanted to shoot some video in the garden, and I tried to do this last week, and I'm really self-conscious about neighbours hearing what I'm talking about. It's like that thought in your head, what will the neighbours think when they hear me talking about consciousness and loving yourself and all of that jazz? When I think about it, I honestly don't think they're bothered. It's just self-consciousness. You know, it's just another day. Other people are getting on with their day, and no one's bothered about what I'm talking about. I could be talking on the phone for all they know. Who knows, they might even think this kind of stuff is cool. How's that for a thought? It's easier, isn't it, though, to blend in and not stand out, to not ruffle other people's feathers. And this is a fear that I want to overcome. I want to do more videos out in the garden without worrying about who might be listening or what they think about what I'm saying. You know, I think we should unite as a community, unite around the things that we have in common, rather than looking at each other's differences, because regardless of your religion, your race, deep down, I think, you know, most decent people, we all want the same things. So I wanted to talk about resentment. Well, why do people resent you? How does that come about, this friction in relationships, especially when you feel like you're kind of getting more into what you regard as your spirituality? Other people may react badly towards that. Now, this is what I've learned. Rejection is really a projection. They're projecting their insecurity onto you. Let me explain. So let's say you're reaching for the stars and you're very optimistic about what is possible for you. Other people may resent that, because for you to do that, for you to really reach for the stars and to do something that other people may not do, takes a bit of courage. And if there's someone in your life who, because you got to be vulnerable to do that, to take a risk like that, because you could fail, and you have to be able to be okay with that vulnerability, to leave yourself open like that, to leave yourself open to criticism, to leave yourself open to being ostracized by the tribe. And not everyone is ready to take that leap, because they don't truly believe that they would have the capacity to be okay with themselves if they did that, because of a fear that they have. But because it's too much for them to look at that fear, it's easier for them to resent you, so that they don't have to look at that about themselves. So they use the resentment as a distraction, and they'll start to pick at things about you to justify why they don't like you. But it's not a rejection. They're not rejecting you, they're rejecting a part of themselves, and they're projecting that onto you. There's a story of Buddha. So Buddha's sat under the tree, and a guy comes past and spits in his face. And Buddha responds with, "What next?" So the guy's confused because every time he spat into someone's face, they've reacted angrily and wanted to start a fight, or they've got scared and smiled and tried to bargain with him. But Buddha's just like, yeah, what next? So the guy is like baffled by this, and Buddha's disciples can't understand it. Buddha's disciples are like, this is an outrage, you can't let him get away with that. And Buddha's like, yo, I'm more offended by your reaction than I am by him. He doesn't know me. He's probably heard stories about me, that I'm a radical, that I'm leading people off the path. So Buddha comes at it like this. The guy who's spitting in his face, he's not spitting in Buddha's face, he's spitting on the image that he has of the Buddha. So anyway, the guy who spat into his face, he goes home and he can't sleep that night because he's never come across a person who's responded this way to him. He's never come across anyone who's responded with indifference, and he can't understand it. So he goes back the next day to Buddha and falls at his feet and asks Buddha for forgiveness, and Buddha's like, there's nothing to forgive. This person who you are now before me isn't the person yesterday. That was an angry man who spat in my face. How can you be the same man? And I'm not the same Buddha. A lot's happened in the past 24 hours. Come and sit beside me and let's talk about something else. So sometimes when it kicks off with people and we bump into them again months later, they're not the same person, you're not the same person, because we're always growing and learning about ourselves, and sometimes you just got to let it go and put it down to experience and not hold on to bad feelings and harbour bad feelings, because it's only going to hurt you at the end of the day. They may have already let it go, so they're not going to feel it. You're the one that's feeling it. And I've had to ask myself this in regards to other people in my life that I've fallen out with. And you go through the emotions of anger and, you know, you dislike that person for a bit, but it gets to a point where I have to ask myself, look, Mike, if I'm going to think about this other person as anything other than a divine part of creation, a divine aspect of all that is, just as I think of myself that way, if I'm going to think of them as anything other than that, I'm tripping. And I need to be honest with myself about that. So, and that's the work of accepting yourself, honouring your own boundaries, but that's the work. And sometimes it takes time, and you have to allow yourself the time and space to go through what you're going through. Sometimes you may not want to be around that person, and that's okay. It's okay to create space for yourself to go through those emotions of anger, then, you know, acceptance, forgiveness, and just move on with your life. Not everyone's gonna understand you, and that's okay. I've said it on a previous video, but it's worth saying again, that sometimes when a lot of criticism is coming your way, you just have to say, look, I'm a human being and I'm a soul on a journey of evolution, and because I'm a soul on a journey of evolution, I have many things that I have yet to learn, and I will make many mistakes, but I am worthy of love from other persons even when I make mistakes. And I'm telling you now, you are worthy of love from other persons even though you've made mistakes. So other people may have already forgiven you for whatever it was that happened. You know, you did what you did because that was what you knew, and they did what they did because it was what they knew. And most of the harm that people do against other people is because they felt it, and now they want to make you feel it. So they want to harm you and make you feel it because they felt it, they've had it done to them. And it gets passed on through the genes. There's a saying that we inherit the sins of our fathers and pass it on. So, and it's unconscious. Some of them realise what they've done, the act that was committed, and some of them don't. They take it to the grave with them, and then what resonates with me is that once you die, you go to the light, and you have to experience the consequences of your actions. The effect that your actions had on another, you have to feel that. Not as punishment. Karma is self-created. It's for your own good. You're creating it for yourself. You would want to feel the consequences of your actions for your own wisdom. That's just what works for me. It's not the way, it's our way of looking at things. And it's how I look at it, and it's what works for me. Okay, that took a lot of doing to sit here and talk like that, but it's just life. Hope you got something from that. Take it easy. Peace.